because like they're not a frontline fighting force. They could certainly they have the numbers to back them up in a skirmish, but they're not prepared like the infantry soldiers or Kree's cavalry for like a long drawn out battle. Right? They're more looking here to quickly take over an area, get the bigger, stronger, heavier forces in to assist. So they're actually probably spreading at this point into the alt-marked district, because their mission when they were sent over here was probably like get into the city and then push down to the south gate because that's where the main bulk of the resistance will be.
Well, it's been hard enough keeping Aelin from going that way already, so.
Okay. So as the group of you are congregating around, obviously, Aelin mass cures wounds. Everybody that has injuries.
Is that +7? Okay, so that's 23. Okay, no big deal.
23 to everybody.
So note, Farron, that we're still better healers than you, always.
Yeah, okay. So that's actually everybody that's injured, including Daniela and Kira Malia. You can heal them up by 23 as well.
The whole party heal.
Spectacular.
Indeed.
I think that brings Kira Malia to full even.
That brings me to full.
Certainly patches Jericho right back up.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I was definitely the worst for wear out of most.
Yep. All the NPCs are also back up to full as well for the next fight.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm not at full, but that's okay.
So anyway, yes, continue the conversation. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries. So we're moving south?
I suppose so.
Told him not to go.
We should help Cahill while we can. We need... It's
going to be a bit of a trek to get there.
If we could take all 4 entrances.
That should at least confuse them about where they should be trying to respond to us, certainly. Did you actually take the north gate? Or, well, I suppose
we did.
Destroying it counts.
We did, didn't we? Like, I remember there were...
Yeah, so the resistance members, again, are more like hindrance. They're not really occupying force. But nobody's getting across the North Bridge anytime soon.
Yeah, probably ever.
Ever is a good guess for how long that will be impassable.
Speaking of which, that will forever be impassable.
There you go.
We had to make some sacrifices.
Out of curiosity, Hannibal, do you know what hubris means?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I don't think I've ever heard that word.
Yep, cool. Okay, situation normal. We'd best be moving on then. I told them the south gate was a mistake. I still want to see if you can banish that door, Aelin.
Let us see if we can.
Let's ride, and then that piggyback on Morella.
Well, so Hannibal, you were dropped in the creeping vines and stuff that were lying on the ground, and I think you go to sit up and you're stuck for a moment as they've kind of intertwined in your clothing and they're kind of gripping you to the ground.
Okay, I'm gonna stay here for a little bit, maybe. Fuck it, someone help me up.
Aelin goes to help you up.
Someone else?
Aelin still goes to help you up.
With a smile.
Damn it.
Do the forces who've been coming over the bridge have their own internal leader that we could confer with? Or...
Yeah, so they definitely have lieutenants and stuff. They were told to make contact here, but they definitely have probably a couple people that lead, a couple of the different sections here. So a couple of them have probably congregated around you, waiting for you to finish whatever conversation or whatever you're having, because they know Hannibal in particular, but also Morella is recognizable, Aelin is recognizable. Jericho, you're less recognizable for obvious reasons.
That's how he likes it, yep.
But yeah, so they understand those other 3 to at least be of higher rank than them, so they're probably looking for direction at this point. And so there's probably a couple of the lieutenants or whatever that are kind of standing around waiting for you to finish your conversation and get Hannibal back up off the ground. And they're kind of conferring with each other, like, you know, we need to push through. They probably have like some crude maps of the city, right? That were kind of like, you know, hastily done on a scroll. Like somebody was like, yeah, this is about here and this is about here. It looks like a treasure map, right? Like a pirate treasure map, where it's like these are the landmarks. They're not in any like there's no scale to the map, but it's like when you get to this thing, turn left, go down this street. You know, you should see keep this landmark, like keep the great tree and the great park to your right at all times. Like there's all that kind of going on. So they're probably just
Medieval
like conferring.
map quest.
Exactly. But once like you walk over them, they kind of like snap to attention, and one of them says, "Sir, we're looking for. As soon as we get the rest of the troops across, we're going to push south. Is that still the plan?"
Yes.
Good. We will do it as swiftly as possible. Can you tell us what of the dangers we will encounter along our way? That was not briefed to us. We had no information from inside the city as of yet.
Well, if we're pushing south, then that means that we'll likely wind up going through Jericho's shithouse.
So,
means-
the undead.
Yes. The undead can be expected, as can Norsemen.
If you head
Demons
towards the
have-
south gate, there will be demons.
Yes.
That I can assure you of.
I think like the man you're talking to, he just kind of smiles. He goes, "Very well. So everything. We came prepared."
Good. What are your men? I'm sorry, I should rephrase that. What are our forces looking like on this side?
We brought the full contingent of scouts. We are 400 strong. I believe the lizardmen have about the same, although they have their own orders. They seem to be following the best they can. And you can see, like, the lizardmen that are coming across are, like, sending scouts down south, but you can see a couple of scouts are, like, going up north and going west and, like, kind of spreading out through the city as well. But the bulk of them are headed south to assist the primary mission.
I turn to Morella and Jericho. I'll take control of the lizardmen. You guys can have control of the regular army.
I don't know why you're talking to me about this. I'm just the entertainment.
I said Jericho and Morella because I thought you two.
Yeah,
were the
he
ones
just
beside me.
Jericho's just still playing up the what are you talking about? I'm a simple bard.
Oh yeah. So then, Morella, will you be able to take control of the normal force, and I'll take control of the lizardmen?
Yeah, you can already see her like walking off in the south
Normal
direction.
force.
All right, then that's great. Aelin, you command them, I guess.
Aelin looks a bit like deer in headlights.
It meant that
Shit!
it
We're
meant that
moving
she is, but she's moving south with them.
Yeah.
Alright, so
Morella indicated that.
So I'm going to go round up kind of the lizardmen
Okay.
and kind of get them going in the right direction.
Yeah, and so when you walk up, you can see that
Very well.
the leader of them kind of like looks at you
I'll
and he
just
says,
scout around a bit, I suppose. Despite what she looks like, the teenager elf over there isn't actually a threat. It's just, fashion these days.
Speaking of
She's
which,
with
I
me.
was wondering
she's just going through a phase.
who the hell is that?
Yeah.
Sort of a prisoner of war. A
Oh, sweet.
fairly agreeable one, though.
Yeah, so probably like as you all are looking over there, you can see she's approached the behind like a little party of the scouts who are kind of like ducking, kind of looking around the corner. She's just like standing out in the open, like kind of looking at them. And Jericho, you can see she kind of like reaches out her hand, like holds it in front of her, and looks like she starts whispering something.
Can I tell what she's whispering?
Aelin sure knows that this looks suspiciously like how she casts her spells.
Well, I kind of suspected that much. I was wondering if I could identify what she's doing, but I suppose I'll probably try to interrupt her if I can.
Yeah, I mean, like, so at a distance you could check, probably. I think that it's going to be a perception check, but it's going to be fairly hard to, like, because there's more going on here than just lip reading. It's also then identifying the language and what she's saying and how it's interacting, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
perception, not arcana?
Yeah, no, it's the act of, I think, in the moment reading her lips and figuring what she's trying to say. I think that's perception more than Arcana. A 25, I would say, is probably right on the money with this one. So you can tell she's speaking Elvish, or at least, like mouthing Elvish. And it's kind of in like a chanty form. And I think that what you pick up out of it is like there's probably a line like "bend to my will" in there.
Okay, definitely try to interrupt her.
Yeah, so you like do you go like running over there and do you like grab her hand or something and like lower it?
Yeah.
Or yeah, and she
Run in and grab her hand. Sorry, I thought I was clear on the part of this where you stayed off to one side and didn't meddle in anything. Just sort of stayed with us rather than whatever the hell you're doing, pulling her away from the soldiers as much as possible so that people don't overhear.
Well, you're also speaking Elvish, right? Because remember, she doesn't understand Common.
Yeah, but other people might also speak Elvish.
True. And I think
Might be a
that
weird dialect, but
as you begin to pull her to the side, she kind of looks confused and she says, "They would not have noticed anything. It was simply practice."
you'd be amazed how comfortable that doesn't make me. No casting spells on any of our soldiers, or really any of us, certainly without asking, and definitely without at least checking with someone in charge, me specifically, checking with me without casting. You're terrible at being a prisoner, all right? I'm trying to help you here. You saw what happened to the other people in your group. We're taking the city back. That doesn't need to be a bad thing for you. I'd like to be on your side, but could you please not go around hexing people?
Yeah, and I think there's just like a long moment where she just kind of looks confused and she's processing what you're saying. And I think there's something along the lines of, "I thought that this was common."
That's unsettling, but no, I'm afraid not. We generally allow people to have their own free will when it comes to the Imperial Army.
Does that not lead to weakness?
It leads to unexpectedness. Sometimes that's a weakness, sometimes it's an overwhelming advantage. Jericho says, eyes locked on Hannibal the entire time.
Yeah, and I think that she just kind of like nods and takes it in, and she says, "Very well. I will only cast spells in self-defense. That is what you wish."
I can work with that for now, sure.
If necessary, if I am truly a prisoner, it would be perhaps prudent to bind and gag me. Would prevent most of my spellcasting.
Yeah, but I feel like as long as we understand what the terms are, that's not necessary, so I'm not going to bother.
Oh. Very well.
I understand this is going to be unfamiliar for you. I don't know what. Aren't you from this city? Weren't you raised here or something?
I said that I was from here, not that I was raised here.
Interesting. Gonna find out what that means at a later date. Anyway, just come with us and, like I said, don't enchant anybody and we should be fine.
Yeah, and she kind of like looks around and she's like, "Should I follow you then?"
I think that would be best for now.
Very well.
Otherwise, you're probably going to run into more trouble with people who are less amiable than my own smiling self.
Yeah. Speaking of which, would I have been able to overhear this conversation?
I think Jericho specifically was trying to lead her away from people when having it.
As best he can.
Right, and
so I would say probably not, but like you could walk up perhaps towards the end of that, right? And like as they're
what
like,
I'm looking
saying...
for is more of like if I'm able to overhear the Elven tongue being spoken.
Oh yeah, you could tell they're speaking Elvish for sure. Like
yeah,
that's
because I
obvious.
speak Elven as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I know. So I probably catch a bit of the beginning, see what's going on. I'm like, Jericho's got this, no big deal. I'm gonna just do my own thing, because if something else happens, it may have changed her what she was about to do. witches go off. So,
Feels bad idea.
well, if Jericho didn't handle the situation, Morella would have. Is what I'm
Does
saying.
does Hannibal see the whole basically him ushering her away because
Yeah.
he was pointing her out? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'd approach him at this point because it seemed like something. It was. I'm not incorrect by saying it looked like something went wrong there.
No,
Yeah,
that's
it
fair.
almost looks like an adult scolding a child, I would say.
Yeah,
In this
okay.
instance.
That's the situation I got from it.
So
Adult
yeah,
scolding.
I'm going to approach that because I don't know about you guys. I don't like the thought of a problem prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
So I approach them.
Yeah, it's probably just as like, Jericho's like, yeah, you should follow me. Like stay with me.
Mhm.
That's probably a good idea. And she
Everything
just kind of like
alright?
nods, and she turns to look at you, Hannibal, and you can see like her eyes are very dark. She has quite large pupils now that you look at them. Her ears are slightly pointed, and her skin is quite pale, almost as if she's received no vitamin D in a very long time.
I lean forward and get a close look at her.
So you lean in, and
Yeah.
like, do you know Elvish, Hannibal?
I know Sylvan, which is like the originator of Elvish.
Okay, yeah. So you could pick up like,
It's like
bits of the dialect.
Yeah.
So I think what you hear, is like self-defense in a questioning tone, and what you hear, Jericho, is she turns to you and she says, "Would this be self-defense?"
No, this is a little premature for self-defense. He should be entirely safe. I'm not sure he understands what we're saying right now. If you do need to talk to somebody else, Jericho just looks around and tries to do a count of anybody in the area who he thinks would speak Elvish.
So you're with the scouts, so there's probably a few members of the scouting party that speak Elvish, having, navigated through the woods. It's probably like the Wood Elven dialect, most likely, but
Right. So a certain amount of dialectic difficulties, but
Yeah.
mutually intelligible.
correct.
Yeah, so he'll just point out a couple of people. If you need help, they should understand you. He will not. He switches to common. Sorry, Hannibal, just pointing out that you don't speak Elvish, and well, she doesn't speak common.
If she slows down enough, I could probably piece it together. I do speak Sylvan. Then I speak a little Sylvan at her.
I don't really think this is the time. Look, she's sort of right.
You're right.
I do
it's
want
not
to
the
keep
time.
an eye on her. I do
Why
want to keep an
are
eye
you
on her.
Why is she causing problems?
She's not causing problems. She's just confused. She seems to have been held captive, not that she fully understood it, by, I'm not sure, probably necromancers. I think she's been conditioned. I'm just trying to look out for her. I don't think she fully grasps what's going on here.
Hannibal kind of just looks at her.
Yeah, she just kind of stares back at you with the same, kind of blank stare.
Just a couple seconds go by. All right. Just make sure you watch her.
Fantastic. I'm watching her. It's fine. We've agreed on some certain ground rules to keep any misunderstandings from happening. She's my responsibility. Nothing you need to worry about. Focus on being a general and sending people to heroic deadly charges.
Damn right. Sending people to their deaths what I'm best at. And as I say, I start walking towards the lizard men.
Now it's time for Kree to feel a disturbance in the Force.
Hey, I always feel a disturbance.
Gross.
You especially feel disturbance because Hannibal's going to start interacting with the lizard men.
Gross.
Gross. So, what about you, Aelin, during this whole period of time? Besides healing everybody.
Yeah, I think that once her immediate need to fix everybody has occurred, also 100%. I think she, her other more pressing thought of the red sparks cross her mind, and she realizes that it's time that she needs to do something to help the South Gate. So I think, and obviously her boo. So I think that she would kind of search out Daniela through the crowd of soldiers, who I'm sure she's already put herself in the middle of, but that's okay. And kind of pull her aside to tell her her plan.
Okay.
And that she needs our help with.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that, as you say, Daniela's probably been doing the same thing that Marilla's been doing. They're very alike in that regard. They're probably seen as a bit of a higher ranking official than the scouts that have shown up. So she's probably directing, like, make sure those corners are locked down, like set up an outpost. Like, because she's been in the city too, so she's done some exploring. So she could be like, hey, she can help them with the maps. She can help them, like, this is a good defensible location. So, let's set an outpost here. Like, that kind of thing is going on. And she kind of catches your eye and says, excuse me for one moment, and kind of walks off. And she's like, yes, what is it?
You saw the sparks as well as I did. They're not going to make it. There's something that we have to do. Don't you agree?
She's like, yes, but what? I have very many, details to work out here. What is it you are suggesting?
I think Aelin puts her hand like over her heart and just kind of looks up. She's like, I think that there's something more we could do, more help we could ask for. Come with me. And she just kind of like goes off to a slightly more quiet place and kneels down.
Yeah, and I think
gestures for her to do the same.
Yeah, Daniela kind of like, she looks around and she nods and she lays her weapon to the side and kneels as well across from you. But she's kind of like, she's looking at you, like she's got her head bowed, but she's kind of like looking at you with her eyes raised to kind of evaluate what you're going to do here.
Yeah. I think Aelin holds both of her hands out, her palms up, and waits for Daniela.
Yeah, Daniela follows suit.
Yeah, so she just grabs her hands and she bows her head. And in true Aelin style, she says a prayer, but then is going to mechanically, obviously, call upon Shalia to help by hollowing the ground of the South Gate. Right, hopefully, under the gate itself and part of the bridge.
Via divine intervention?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So, you have that skill, right? Go ahead and click it for me. We can all read it in all of its glory.
I apologize for the book in advance.
Do you know the prayer that you say?
Yeah. So I think Aelin says, my lady, we are calling upon you in this great urgent time of need. Please aid our brothers and sisters at the South Gate, hallow the ground upon which they fight, and bring light to this darkness. It is this that I ask of you swiftly, as you may, to preserve the sanctity of all their lives. In your name, we pray.
Yeah, cool. So, surprisingly, there is actually a very specific effect of this spell that is 100% applicable in this situation. So Daniela also kind of like recites the prayer after you and probably adds her own phrase of, and may your light guide us in the darkness that is to come in the following days. And then, you guys end the prayer, and for a while, nothing happens, right? It's just kind of simply a drawn out kind of moment there. And I think that as you're kind of lying there, a single drop of water like falls on your face, Aelin, and then another, and then we hear it begin to plink off Daniela's armor, and it begins to rain, similar to what happened the last time when you tried to use divine intervention. And as it begins to rain, we see Kree. You're arriving kind of at the along the long pathway that leads up to the actual south gate, and from this distance you can kind of see it, and you hear like the storm and the thunder of the clouds begin to roll in, and you hear the rain begin to kind of drizzle over the houses. And it's kind of a cold rain as well. It's, you know, the beginning of autumn in a northern part of the empire. So the rain is kind of cold and obviously perhaps a little bit uncomfortable. But as you round the bend there and begin trotting with your troops, you probably smash another Norseman's head in. And you kind of gaze out in the distance, and you're standing a little bit elevated so you can see down to the south gate. And where do you keep the lance on your mount?
It's mounted directly behind me, sort of behind the saddle.
Okay. Yeah, so you begin to feel a warmth at the small of your back where it's mounted to. And you turn, and we can see from inside the box, we can see like the crack that runs along the box where the lance is stored. There's light shining out from all edges of it, and it's become apparent to the people around you as well, including you, Farron. And I assume you pull it to the front, and do you open it up?
Obviously.
Yeah, and so you open it up, and you can see as you open it, you can see that it's glowing as you've seen it do before in battle, and you know that it is Chotek's power coursing through it. But you notice something different this time. As you open it up and expose it to air, the rain, as it's beginning to settle down, you see bits of it begin to strike onto the lance. And while the lance burns kind of this bright white, kind of almost like mother of pearl, like off-white color, where the raindrops are striking the lance, we can see this infusion. It's almost as if they're being absorbed by the lance, and we see that kind of like spray of if you've ever taken like color dye and dropped it in water, that kind of cloud formation that it makes, we see that begin to happen up and down the lance and dissipate, but not completely. And you're kind of awestruck, I would say, as this begins to occur. And you rest your hand to maybe take the lance out, and you can feel that the lance is very heavy, as if it were if it were a wooden shafted lance, if it were waterlogged. And you kind of lift it out. And you can see that now, as you lift it out, none of the rain that has touched it is dripping off. The lance is not wet at all. It's absorbing this energy from the rain that is falling upon it. And as it does, it begins to turn this kind of bluish hue, almost as if how our eyes perceive the color of lightning, where it's white, but it's got that bluish kind of hue around it. And you feel it begin to hum and vibrate with energy, with a force that you've never felt before after you've touched it. And I think that as you kind of raise it up, you feel it begin to lower, and the tip of it points towards the south gate. And you see the clouds part for a moment above you, and we see the god rays of light shine down in that direction, and it feels very reminiscent of your dream that you had, Kree, of striking this gate. There are things that are different, but also things that are very similar. The lance made of lightning, which now has this bluish hue around your lance of Chotek. I think that the other thing that you feel as you're engaged with this is you feel that there is some other power that is affecting this. Where before you felt the pure light of Chotek, and Chotek is very he has a lot of anger, right? He's the god of lightning. He's a god of storms in some tongues. I think you feel an overwhelming calmness as you touch the lance itself. And you know that your mission now is to charge the south gate with this weapon in hand. And perhaps you feel as though you are reaching some destiny that you did not previously possess or have knowledge of. It's a positively divine moment, I think, for Kree. And I think that this, Farron, this is not lost on you. This particular moment that you see here is the one in the ballads that you have come to know front and back. This is the scene that builds up to the climax. This is the end of the hero's journey in the epic tales that you recite day in and day out for the taverns and inns that you play in. And seeing it for the first time in person, it's not hearing from a story. You know for certain, Farron, that writing this tale will elevate you above Jericho.
The true
Yeah, I
dream
think-
of all bards.
Yeah, I think after being like awe-inspired for a few moments, while still trying to somehow balance whilst riding, I take out a piece of paper and just start scribbling down.
Yeah. So also, I think that the interesting, Farron, like, you're probably like trying to cover it and prevent it from getting wet because it's like slightly drizzling now with rain. And I think that your parchment is not absorbing any water. Does not appear to be wet. The divine story that you begin writing in this moment is affected by the overall power of whatever is happening here. And the deities allow you to continue your epic without ruination.
So I think it's pretty obvious here, seeing what's happening to his lance and feeling this power. It's very obvious for Kree to turn to his men and signal the charge.
Yeah, just you raise the lance above your head. Do you say anything, or is that simply the driving force behind them to begin their charge?
It is a special moment of silence.
Yeah, you raise, and even the rain dulls to silence and subdues in this moment. And as you raise the lance and you turn Noct, who is standing taller and prouder and, higher than any of the other surrounding cold ones behind you, you point in the direction of the south gate and you begin to charge. And the rain begins in earnest now. It's no longer the drizzle, it is a true torrential downpour as the mounts begin galloping down the south, down the large major road towards the south gate. And I think that we see, as the group of you is galloping down in that direction, we hear the clopping of the cold ones and their claws scratching along the stone pavement, and we hear the bears kind of heavy patting the boom, 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 as they're running down the street, and the puddles of water being splashed up and kind of flying from they're kind of flying from the face of Kree and Noct as you charge in with your lance outstretched. And as you begin to near, you've covered about half the distance to the south gate. I think that as that's happening, we see you come, you round a little bit of the bend, and the houses kind of clear away into that large opening, and you see the south gate dead before you. And something interesting happens. We see the gate, it pivots almost as if it were on an axis, and it turns towards you, and instead of the other side of the gate as you were expecting, there's a large face It's almost like this stretched skin has been stretched over where the portcullis gate would lie. And we see that there are eye sockets that are barren. They're just simply voids in both color and soul. And we see a nose that stretches down. The face is vaguely humanoid in this, and we see that it has a mouth that is currently closed, and the mouth begins to open wide, and it opens into a large oval shape, almost as if as the mouth were screaming. And on the other side, we can see kind of a burning hellscape. It appears to be in a forested area that is forested no more, and it appears to be torn down and logged quite heavily, although the trees in the area appear to be kind of just smashed out of the way for no apparent reason. And behind this image that we see that there is there's a large, vast host of demons kind of arrayed along this, what used to be greenscape, but is now black and barren wasteland. And I think that as we travel down that, you can see off in the distance some spires coming up along a city. And we see a large column of smoke rising from in front of that, but just beyond that we can see the city, and we realize that this is a window looking at Middenheim and at the vast host that is arrayed outside of the front gates. And I think that we see some of the host begin to march forward, and we see there is a large demonic creature who has this large burning sword in its hand, and he kind of like looks, and you can see the pit of fire in his eyes as he stares down this small, like, you don't even have that many people, right, in this small band charging towards them. And as it sees that, it begins to walk, and it puts its hand as if to push open the mouth or this window that we're looking at. And we see that it kind of stops. We see it pushes harder. We see it pushes harder, and we see it places its second hand and pushes. And we see it begin to beat on it with a fist. And we see it scream bloody rage behind it. And the demon door, dimensional portal, has been subdued. Cannot bring in any more reinforcements. And Kree, you're charging down, and I think we see you're at the front, but some of your men begin to outpace you so they can take out. They understand the importance of you needing to get to the gate. That is that's their sole purpose in life, and they're throwing their bodies and their limbs and their mounts in the fray of these this host of kind of undead and demon mix with some Norsemen. It's kind of a smorgasbord of bodies in front of you, and they're throwing them out of the way, and you have your eyes set, focused on the gate. And as you charge in, the waves part, and Noct is throwing a couple people to the side, and you haven't lost any pace, and you know that you need to continue on. And as you crash headfirst into the window, your lance aimed directly at the heart of this creature on the other side, who is screaming, and fire is raging from his mouth, and his wings are inflamed as well, and we see his sword light to this bluish flame. You crash in, and as the lance tip strikes this mirror-like entity of this mouth, this demon door, the first roll of thunder strikes. And it shakes the whole city, and those of you that are up at the East Gate, you feel this rumble. It feels like everything is about to collapse. We see these bricks and stone are falling off of houses and buildings in the area, and the thatch is kind of loosening and rattling, and hay begins to fall from it. And we see lightning strike the South Gate at the exact moment that Kree does. And that's a great place, I think, to our break.
Okay.
Go team.
Heck yeah.
I did it. Don't worry.
Don't worry, guys. That was all me.
Cool. So let's be back at 5 after.
Sure.
Okay. See y'all then. All right, everyone. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll deal with the aftermath of what happened there in that particular scene. So, stay tuned.